the family of Mahmoud Khalil released the footage of his arrest. If you want to see what it looked like, the horrifying nature of Gestapo kicking in your door, coming into your house, violating your law, violating your constitutionally protected rights. Let's take a look.
But you're going to be under arrest. So turn around.
Okay, let's not. Okay, he's not resisting. He's giving me his phone, okay? He's not, I understand. He's not resisting. Like,
there's no need for this.
Don't worry about it. You're going to have to come with us. Don't worry.
I'm coming with you. Don't worry.
No one's resisting. No one's getting worked up.
you guys really don't need to be doing all of that.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
حبيبي كيف بدي اتصل فيك؟
Take Amy. Call Amy.
Okay. Hi, Amy. Yeah, they just like handcuffed him and took him. I don't know what to do. Okay. And what should I do? I don't know. Nor. Let me ask. Can we get a name, please? Can we get your name? I understand the lawyer is asking for your name.
Go back, please. Go over there. No, we don't give our names.
The lawyer's asking for your name. He's saying they don't give their names.
Oh yeah, that's right. They'll be taken to immigration custody at 26 Federal Plaza.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
They'll be taken to immigration custody at 26 Federal Plaza.
She said they're taking.
Unmarked car, plainclothes officers. This is straightforwardly a Gestapo-style kidnapping. When was this clip from, brother? A couple days ago. This is the Khalil family has released the kidnapping of Mahmoud
To 26 Federal Plaza. Can you please specify what agency?
Interesting. They're some of the ICE agents are also covering their faces. I thought they didn't want any sort of. I thought they wanted to do a face mask ban. Wonder why they're covering their faces. They should be proud. They're just operating at the behest of the federal government.
He is taking him, please. Excuse me. They're not talking to me. I don't know. I don't know. Excuse me. The lawyer would like to speak to somebody. Oh my God, they're literally running away from me.
If there was any justice in the world, those who have perpetrated crimes like this, both in Israel and the United States of America, would be arrested and prosecuted in a Nuremberg-style trial. Members of the media that have also actively defended these sorts of actions would be persecuted and successfully prosecuted in a Nuremberg-style trial. The only thing holding back this from happening is, or the only thing that causes people to be confident that they will never actually see repercussions for these kinds of violations of human rights, is the fact that they think America will always be at the top forever. That's it. Yeah, the guy who arrested him, I think, was Elvin Hernandez, who was at this guy. Documents show the ICE agent who arrested Mahmoud Khalil was a special guest of the President Trump at the State of the Union address. Listen, I'm sure leading up to like 1939, Germans probably thought that Germany was going to stay on top too. Things change. I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than to showcase to you the depravity.
We got some breaking news. We're going to start off here with in the arrest of
looks like for Khalil Mohammed,
Colombia activist Mahmoud Khalil, and we've just gotten video into the newsroom of him being taken into custody by ICE agents.
Yes, the video was actually taken by his wife, and her name is Noor Abdallah. And you hear in this video that we're going to play for you, she is 8 months pregnant, and the arrest happened Saturday night at their on-campus home. If we can take a look at that video here, this is her videotaping the arrest of her husband. Now, Abdallah says that this was the most terrifying moment of her
She's 8
life.
months pregnant,
and
by
of
the
course,
way.
as we get some more information and background on this video, we'll continue to update the story. But once again, video of Mahmoud Khalil being arrested by ICE agents. That video taken by his wife, who is now 8 months pregnant.
And today we've learned a second person who participated in pro-Palestinian demonstrations at Columbia University has been arrested.
And this comes as we get some more details about the Department of Homeland Security agents searching residents on campus. Tonight, students are not backing down from making their voices heard with demonstrations on campus and also throughout the city. Masa Saidi is live outside the campus there with more. Masa.
Hi there, KJ and Alan. That's right. Overnight, federal agents executed search warrants here on campus, searching the residence of 2 students. The university's president says that no one was detained in that search overnight, but we have learned arrests are happening.
Tonight, new video shows an international Columbia University student at LaGuardia Airport Tuesday. The video released on X by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Noem says the PhD student from India self-deported after her visa was revoked for allegedly supporting Hamas. On Friday, multiple rallies for Mahmoud Khalil, a student leader in last year's pro-Palestinian demonstrations on campus.
Fuck this country,
The
dog.
Trump administration claims he led activities aligned with Hamas. Tonight, he remains in ICE custody in Louisiana as his attorneys provide an update.
Even though he's the first one who has been picked up by ICE, you know, he's genuinely fearful that what's happened to him will happen to others.
Students called the attempted deportation unprecedented. What are you scared of?
Scared of retaliation. Not just the threat of suspension, the threat of expulsion, the threat of doxing by our fellow students, also the threat of being falsely accused by other students of either being supportive of, for example, Netanyahu's government or being supportive of Hamas.
I'm here today because Grant isn't just my president. He was also my teacher.
Meantime, the Student Workers of Columbia Union outraged after they say the university expelled and fired the president of UAW Local 2710 on the eve of contract negotiations. Students feel this too was a crackdown on free speech.
The administration can claim all it likes that it did not cooperate with the authorities, but every day they allow members of our community to dox, stalk, and report Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim students to shadowy government agencies.
Tonight, the Trump administration demanding big changes at Columbia before potentially restoring federal funding. In a letter to the school's interim president yesterday, the administration outlined immediate next steps, including, quote, enforce existing disciplinary policies, institute a mask ban, and formalize a definition of anti-Semitism. The school has 1 week to comply.
Now, Khalil is a legal U.S. resident with a green card. He's of Palestinian descent, and in New York, nearly 100 protesters were arrested after a sit-in at Trump Tower. A group called Jewish Voice for Peace led the demonstration. The Trump administration calls Khalil a Hamas sympathizer, even accusing him of handing out Hamas propaganda. The government is basing their attempt to deport him on the Immigration and Nationality Act, which allows the Secretary of State to deport someone they believe could harm U.S. foreign policy interests.
This is not about free speech. This is about people that don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with. No one has a right to a student visa. No one has a right to a green card, by the way. So when you apply for a student visa or any visa to enter the United States, we have a right to deny you for virtually any reason. But I think being a supporter of Hamas and coming into our universities and turning them upside down and being complicit in what are clearly crimes of vandalization, complicit in shutting down learning institutions. If you told us that's what you intended to do when you came to America, we would have.
You guys understand that this is like the scary legal precedent that they're trying to set here is basically to expand on denial of entry restrictions and retroactively treat you as a legal permanent resident as though you are simply entering the country. There are obviously, understandably, and sometimes stupidly, higher restrictions when you are applying for a visa as opposed to once you are in the States. If they can do that and revoke someone's legal permanent residency by trying to apply retroactively visa application restrictions standards, they can revoke your citizenship and denaturalize you as well under that exact same principle. There's nothing stopping them from revoking citizenship and denaturalizing people.
Never let you in. And if you do it once you get in, we're going to revoke it and kick you out.
All right, let's get right to CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano. She's outside Columbia University. Lilia, what's the scene like there now? Are there more protesters?
There are a few hundred protesters who you can't really see right behind me because they're over there further down the street. There's a lot of police presence. They're barricaded within the sidewalk with a great deal of NYPD officers all around. We heard them chanting earlier. There's really only one counter protester who I can see from here. We are waiting. This protest was scheduled for about 1:30, so I mean, East Coast time. So it's really kind of the beginning of it. So we expect that it will continue and it might grow in the coming hours. There's also a 3 p.m. press conference from Khalil's attorneys we're hoping that they will update us on the latest in that case that they're presenting, where they're alleging that it was unconstitutional, the arrest at first, and fighting back against this notion that Mahmoud Khalil was a supporter of Hamas. They have challenged the government to provide any evidence that he in any way supported Hamas. They're saying that he's being punished for speaking out and for protesting, for pro-Palestinian protests that happened here and that we covered last year. They're also asking for him to be brought to New York. What the government is saying is they're trying to move the case, the jurisdiction of the case, to either New Jersey or Louisiana. So we're waiting to hear what's the latest on those developments. But here on campus, we are feeling the tensions rising from faculty members that I've talked to, students that I've talked to, because last night DHS federal agents came into student housing looking for students to arrest. What we learned this morning was that one student self-deported, according to Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, using an app from CPB. And another one was arrested. It's a student who is a Palestinian and a student who they're saying, according to the government, was part of the protest, and they're saying that in a similar way of the accusations against Khalil, that she also supported Hamas. But
self-deporting is not a real term. That just means that like that person left the country. Okay, that's it. and I guess like informed the government that they were leaving the country on their own volition. That's what it is. And they revoked her visa in the process, which is another part of the campaign. Like that is the goal here. The goal is to scare people shitless into not coming here or leaving here on their own. Either you leave here on your own. Well, the major goal here is to just like get people to shut the fuck up. And if you don't shut the fuck up, just leave. Or if you don't leave, we're going to put you in jail. We're going to violently come in and apprehend you in the middle of the night. We're going to say you're a terrorist. I mean, we're going to say you're a terrorist even if you leave on your own volition. But it's just, I think people are so callous and so careless with their indifference to an incredible violation of the First Amendment here. Department of Homeland Security announced a Columbia student from India had her visa revoked and self-deported. That ICE arrested another Palestinian student who participated in the protest. Alleges both supported Hamas or terrorism without evidence.
He is a green card holder, a permanent legal resident of the United States, married to an American citizen. In this case, what DHS is saying and the information that they're releasing about this other student is that this is a student who overstayed, who had an expired visa. So this is something where it seems that the government, has already had perhaps the authority to remove this student. We're still, of course, waiting on more details and hoping to hear about any other developments that happen in terms of what the government is doing here in Columbia. Another thing that happened last night, another thing that we learned is that the government is trying to pressure the university to abide.
That's also insane. Like, she's in college, brother. What are you, sister? Government? What are you talking about? She's literally in college. Oh, wow. Her visa actually expired is crazy. So that's like normally what they would do. That's what normally they used to do, specifically going after Palestinian protesters of Palestinian descent, and also protesters who are anti-Israel. But specifically, protesters of a Palestinian background would get this treatment in the past, as we covered before, historically, which is to find like some kind of paperwork related reason to unjustifiably deport someone for the crime of saying Israel is bad. And that is what they used to normally do, but Mahmoud Khalil is like is a new erosion of pre-existing rights that American citizens and non-citizens alike have or are supposed to have. Like this other student is also being falsely deported, and they're being like their deportation process is their deportation is being processed only because they spoke out against Israel, but under normal circumstances, at least historically, that's precisely how the American government used to operate. Mahmoud Khalil's situation is new.
By a list of demands before the government decides to enter into negotiations to restore those $400 million in federal funding that they had suspended from the university. Those include banning masks. They include giving the Office of the President of Columbia University basically the sole authority over disciplining students, over expelling students.
Bro, this is literally the ADL checklist. That's crazy.
That the university, quote unquote, implement their discipline against the students who participated either in the occupation of Hamilton Hall or even in the encampments, according to the documents. We do know that yesterday the university announced that they had expelled or suspended for a long period of time the students who had occupied Haskell Hall. And if you can listen, it seems like now, once again, the protest chants are starting behind us. I don't know if you can see some of it, but they're happening right here. We're seeing a Palestinian flag, and we are seeing that the students, just like it happened last year, they're barricaded within a very limited area, a few hundred of them, of that sidewalk here in Columbia, in front of Columbia University.
We can't see them.
We'll, of course, continue reporting as more information comes out.
Yeah, we can't see them, but we can certainly
hear them.
Yes. Well, I know you're going to keep an eye on it for us. Thank you so much, Lilia, outside Columbia University. But let's get to CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, Khalil's lawyers say he may miss the birth of his own child. Does the justice system consider personal milestones like that when determining pretrial release?
So to the extent that this is about pretrial release and it's about a question of whether or not he's a flight risk, for instance, or a potential harm to the community, then yes, you can consider a life event like whether or not he would be likely to leave and miss the birth of his child.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to leave.
Now, we also know that when it comes to scheduling in general, when it comes to scheduling trials, while the justice system does need to continue and it can't pause for everything, we know that judges certainly consider major life events as well. So this isn't just about sympathy.
So we're also learning, Jessica, the Department of Homeland Security searched 2 students' rooms last night on Columbia's campus, on their actual university campus. Any legal issues around that, given that it may be different because these rooms were on a university campus? It wasn't a private residence, right?
Yeah, I don't think he's a flight risk. And I don't think he is an immediate danger to himself or others, considering that he is not being held for any real crime whatsoever. What's he going to do? Say Israel is a apartheid state again in public? Oh, no.
Right. So the main legal question here would be whether or not there was a proper search warrant. And I haven't seen any indication that there wasn't. In order for the Department of Homeland Security to be able to do what they did, they would need a search warrant. It would have to be executed by a federal magistrate. They would have to come to that federal magistrate and say, we have probable cause. That's why we get to go in and search this particular place. I think you asked a really good question about the difference between basically a dorm room and a private residence. And what I would say is if the probable cause is there, I'm being very general, but if the probable cause is there, then the Department of Homeland Security can come in. In many ways, a dorm room is, at least while school is in session, considered at least a quasi private residence.
So would the university then, because it's a quasi-private residence, have to give
Flight risk doesn't mean can he fly away from this prison? Lol, Hasan, you're smarter than that. The reason why I'm making a joke about him not being a flight risk is because this is a deportation proceeding. I don't think he's trying to run away and escape the country considering that the ultimate goal for the American state, if they carry out this court case, would be to literally turn him into a flight risk, as in get him to leave the country.
Give permission to Department of Homeland Security?
I don't think that they would, given that it's just like if you think about a landlord, if a tenant, for instance, is in a situation where the Department of Homeland Security or law enforcement can get a warrant because there's probable cause, you don't need to first ask the landlord.
I want to get to this too. A congressional committee is asking Columbia to hand over disciplinary records of some of its students. A group of students, including Mahmoud Khalil, are suing to prevent this. How's this going to play out?
Well, we know that what the students will likely argue is that there's something called FERPA violations. So FERPA is an acronym of a federal law. It deals with students' privacy. And it's something that I deal with. For instance, I don't leave my seating chart out because there's some privacy when it comes to who's in my class and where they sit, and particularly when it comes to student records. So legally, how will this play out? I think the students will claim that there is, again, a violation of this federal statute dealing with their privacy rights. I think that they could claim that there isn't the congressional power to do this, that there's a congressional authorization issue, and maybe also some due process concerns as well.
You know, so much at the core of this is the right to free speech. Could the outcome of this case impact what free speech is in the U.S.?
So, that's such a good question in the sense of, will this be a precedent-setting case? And I'm going to give the honest answer, which is this very early in the case, and it really depends. Obviously, what Khalil is arguing is he's being targeted based on lawful conduct, which is what he is saying. And we know if the First Amendment protects anything, we don't want to punish people based on either the subject matter of the speech or their viewpoint. Having said that, there is this statute that is still on the books. It's a very old immigration statute. It's not typically used in this situation, and it gives the Secretary of State broad power.
It gives the Secretary of State broad power, but that doesn't mean that you can de facto apply said broad power without real justification. And if the justification is his lawful speech, then yes, it is a direct violation of free speech. That's the problem here. I don't know, man. I don't have any confidence in the current Supreme Court, but I feel like even this Supreme Court wouldn't go that far, but who knows? I really do think that this is the most glaringly obvious instance of a clear-cut definitional violation of the First Amendment. Yeah. Ideas are not illegal, and there's no controversial speech exception to the First Amendment. Our right to free speech includes advocacy for Palestine. We will not be intimidated. We will not be stopped. We will fight until Mahmoud Khalil is free. We will fight until Palestine is free. The other adverse effect of the Trump administration greatly expanding on, the cruelty that it subjects more and more Americans, citizens and non-citizens alike to, is that under different circumstances, we should be fighting battles on how crazy it is that, like, they're denying people entry into the country for saying stuff about Israel. You know what I mean? But we're so far removed from that because they jumped 11 steps into the future. Like they ramped up the cruelty metrics so hard. If this sets a precedent, could we deport Nazis? If you think that this will ever be utilized against Nazis, you are the funniest clown of all time. Nazis currently run the government. It's Nazis that are doing this. It's like in 1939 being like, well, one day when we win power, on your way to the concentration camps as a trade unionist, you're thinking to yourself, well, one day when we democratically win back power, we'll use this to deport the Nazis or we'll put them in concentration camps. Yeah, no, it's not happening. All right. Yeah. You can protest as a Nazi freely in the streets of the United States of America, and the local law enforcement, the ones that aren't protesting by your side because they're actually on duty that day, they will protect you. Defeatist? This is not defeatist. It's realistic. What are you talking about? Pure fantasy to make it seem as though there is like some silver lining to this way of revoking citizenship to a person over free speech, because you think in your fantasy that there might be you might be able to use that against Nazis in the future. You won't. You're stupid for thinking that. I'm sorry. It is quite literally Nazis. Some of them have been naturalized citizens of the United States that are not even originally from here, like Elon. Elon is not even from here. He's from South Africa. When are we deporting his bitch ass? It's not happening.
To say you present, I'm paraphrasing here, essentially a national security problem. So in terms of will this create new First Amendment precedent, I think it depends on how this case proceeds and which framing a judge adopts when it comes to First Amendment or national security.
So many issues with this case. Thank you so much, Jessica, for helping us break it all down.